to Arizona Wildlife Views. I'm your host, Ian Satter. Tonight's show is all about amphibians and reptiles. First, we'll take you out to the desert near Picacho Peak for an ongoing study that may surprise you.
That's worth the whole trip just to see that one.
Yeah, you gotta wonder what brings grown men out into the desert on a weekend just to huddle around a rock.
Easy guys. It's gonna be tough getting in though, I can tell that already.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Okay, this is cool.
Okay, time to let everybody see what's happening here.
It's a young female.
Yeah, a young female rattlesnake. Okay, I guess that's kind of cool, as long as she's in there and we're out here. But really, what's the big deal?
This is unprecedented for studies of rattlesnakes, is actually getting images of them in their dens.
He's like checking
this
out.
This takes really good technology to get back there, so we're very, very pleased to get these kinds of images.
These researchers are using a small, high-tech, half-inch square color video camera with a separate light source.
The light source is a pair of LEDs that we kind of fabricated ourselves. We put some LEDs onto a little printed circuit board, so it's really small, and we could pass it in independently of the camera to provide lighting for the camera.
Yeah, the light's a little to the sides.
The camera, LEDs, and recorder are powered by small 12-volt batteries, so that everything is portable for use in the field. Nothing like a little seat-of-the-pants creativity to get the job done.
We have them, both the camera and the LEDs, taped to a very high-tech coat hanger to poke back into this crevice.
The Rube Goldberg.
Hey, we used official gaffer's tape. Come on.
Well, official or not, just make sure she doesn't decide to come out. So, Bruce, what do you see in there?
I see an adult diamondback looking straight at me. You can actually see the heat-sensing.
Oh, a tongue flick. Look at that. Yoo-hoo!
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that sharp?
You can see the eye.
Right there. You can see the eye now.
Oh, jeez,
look at that. You can see the pore. That pore is huge using this camera. And then you've got the right eye looking at you. And you got those kind of bony coverings on the eye to protect it. You can see his eye, his left and his right eye kind of up on top of the head, but those two holes right in front of the right and left-hand side of the face are the heat-sensing sensors.
Well, those holes are called loreal pits and are used to detect heat put off by their prey.
All right.
As well as potential predators.
Now, this is nice.
That's extremely nice.
Wonderful. All right, guys. Look at it.
We're in the upper Sonoran Desert just north of Tucson, not too far east of Picacho Peak. Led by biologist Gordon Schuett, they're studying the spatial ecology of western diamondbacks, what they eat, and how they spend their time throughout the year.
We're also collecting data on genetics. One of the fascinating things about denning is that it does not appear to be used to avoid inclement weather or cold weather in this particular case. So the reason for denning needs to be explained in the Sonoran Desert, say different from that of rattlesnake populations in more cold climates, where clearly getting to a den is important for survival. Here it's not essential.
They're only 5 years into the study, and already some interesting observations have been made, including how the sexes utilize dens differently, including the observation that females often prefer small rodent and mammal dens over rock crevices.
In the males, however, they tend to be more gregarious, and in the case of the den behind us here, we know of at least 7 to 8 males that consistently use this den or show high fidelity to it. Thus, we are interested in the possibility that there might be a social structure undiscovered at this point that reflects perhaps close kinship, brothers, other family types of units. So with the types of technologies we have today to be able to look at DNA and analyze it, we can determine some degree of pedigree or kinship with these particular animals. Maybe we have a family here behind us in the den. We're studying adult animals primarily, and so we're looking at animals that already have established their spatial ecology or home range. And what we see, if we track the animals from some period in spring and then look at their later spring and summer and then returning back to the den in November. Well, it's a beautiful morning out in the desert.
That tracking entails the use of more high-tech equipment, radio transmitters and receivers. Rattlesnakes are famous for their ability to blend into their surroundings. So if you went out and solely relied on your eyes, well, you'd walk right past most of them.
We have marked and microchipped over 100 snakes in a square kilometer area. So we have a pretty decent population of rattlesnakes here. I caught my first snake. It was a garter snake in my mother's garden at 4 years old. I've been fascinated with them ever since that. We currently have 20 snakes that have transmitters placed inside of them. You have to put these transmitters inside of the snake because if they are external, the first time the snake would shed his skin, out would come the transmitter.
The transmitters beep faster when the animal is warmer and slower for when the animal is colder.
We can still hear the signal.
So researchers can tell the body temperature of the snake even as they approach. Now that's good info to know, since a warmer snake tends to be more active than a cooler snake.
This equipment has a range of about 1 kilometer, so we are able to just kind of stand here and pick up some various signals of various animals that are all around us now, and use this equipment to track it right down to the nearest square foot of ground that they may be under or maybe on top of as well. And what we're going to do is dial in the signal of a diamondback that is a female diamondback. She is number 30. We've named her Beatrice because she lived in a bee cave at one point, which was terrifying for us. So I have her signal dialed in. We're just going to go ahead and turn it on, see if we hear anything. She sounds like she's about 50 meters to the north of us here.
Once the den is located, yet another piece of extremely high-tech equipment comes into play. Well, yeah, okay, it's a mirror. The mirror is used to reflect sunlight into the den in an attempt to see the snake. No such luck with this gal.
And she's probably about 3 feet under the surface of the ground right now, just chilling out.
When we look at that home range, males cover a much larger area in general. So in general, males have the volume or the size of their home range is much larger. So it can be in the magnitude of several hundred hectares. Females vary. They can have home ranges that approximate that of males, or they can have very tiny home ranges, maybe of just a few hundred square meters.
All living things require food, water, shelter, and space in appropriate arrangement. Since the snake's shelter and space are dictated by their geographic location, researchers are concentrating their studies on how individuals are being shaped by the landscape, specifically the availability of water and food.
There is no water here in the Sonoran Desert at our location, so most of their water is coming through what they feed on, and that would be primarily rodents.
Now, a lot of people think they're safe from snake strikes in the winter because the snakes are in hibernation. As is the case with most myths, that simply isn't true.
We see activity year-round here. So we study diamondbacks 24/7, basically, and consider winter to be a very active time. So, for example, it is not unusual for animals to make small movements during the winter outside of their dens, perhaps even visiting other individuals, nearby locations. And we have a couple of examples this year already of males visiting girls. And that might be that they're keeping track of their potential mates for upcoming spring. March and early April are their mating periods.
Now, as unbelievable as it may seem, Gordon and his crew have seen pack rats and rattlesnakes sharing the same den. That's rather like living with your mortal enemy.
In addition to studying rattlesnakes, one can't help but to study the other fauna. And we've been very interested in the relationship that the adult diamondback has with its prey, at least most of the time of the year, and that would be the pack rat or neotoma. Neotoma are very abundant in this region and build their nests above the ground here for the most part. They're called middens. The rattlesnakes during the active season, April through October, are feeding, going to these middens and feeding on the occupants of that midden. But during hibernation, when the snakes are at the den, the pack rats often occupy the den, and these are perhaps male pack rats, and will not be harmed by the snakes. The snakes are perfectly active, moving about. In fact, we've seen the pack rats moving about on the snakes. In addition to occupying the den, the pack rats will actually bring pieces of cholla, cactus, in their mouth and stuff the entrance of the den with this material, which seems to deter other potential predators to the pack rat, but also may aid the rattlesnake. So this is something that we're looking at as a potential symbiosis between this particular rodent and the diamondbacks, and that would make for a good study in the future.
Remember all those alligators that were confiscated last year? Next up, we'll show you the happy ending to their long and strange journey.
This was the scene on April the 17th, 2005, when a Department of Public Safety officer pulled over a truck and trailer with a broken taillight near Casa Grande. The officer's dash-mounted camera was recording when he searched the trailer and discovered something alive and with big teeth.
Oh my God!
What he found inside was this, and these.
Once the DPS officer got inside the trailer and started poking around, he found an abundance of different kinds of animals. He had rabbits, cats in cages, chickens in cages. When the DPS officer looked through some of the smaller crawl spaces and some of the plastic boxes the subject had, he noticed that the individual had a whole bunch of alligators as well.
The total count? 32 alligators and 3 desert tortoises, all of which are illegal to possess in Arizona without a special permit. So the animals were confiscated and moved to this facility run by the Phoenix Herpetological Society. They'll care for them there until the courts can decide what to do with them.
So we'll have to hold them as evidence until they give us disposition on the case. If they end up being permanently seized, which, you know, it kind of looks like it's going to be that way, we'll be doing some direct contact with some zoos. See if they, you know, since we have such huge disparities in sizes, we can tell them, you know, we've got quite a bit that we can give them, and hopefully we'll get some of them placed like that.
The Herpetological Society cares for unwanted, abandoned, or seized reptiles of every shape and size. Currently, they are housing about 400 of these creatures. It's a volunteer organization looking to do what is best for the animals. Caring for them is a lot of work.
Their life here was better than any place it would have been here, and I'm not taking away from anything, but you know, that's all we do is the reptiles. We had some with some medical needs, and you know, there's not a whole lot of people that are going to jump on an alligator and give it a shot.
Now, fast forward to a year later, it's 2006. 20 of the seized gators are heading for a new home, an educational facility in Florida.
They're going to Bushnell, Florida, to a place called Crocodile Creek, which is a educational facility that run by David Day. We've checked him out with Florida Game and Fish, and Arizona Game and Fish has verified he has all his licenses. He does handle some crocodilians. He's very excited about getting these guys. Why somebody in Florida needs alligators, I couldn't tell you.
You know, everything just looks wonderful now. They're all fat. They've got these big, heavy tails at the bases, a little bit of swelling that looks just the way they should, and heavy flesh around the neck. That's always a sign that they're in good shape. These animals look far better than we brought them in, and that's generally the case when we deal with these guys. They do an excellent job of husbandry.
You know, for these guys and gals that come in and do this, it's really something. You know, trying to talk somebody into going into a cage with a 9-foot alligator, you know, that's not an easy task. You got to have a really certain type of mindset that, you know, an alligator's going to be an alligator, and I've got to just be smarter than something with the brain the size of a pea. Yeah.
So the process of packing up 18 small alligators and 2 very large ones begins. The smaller alligators are placed head to toe in crates specially designed for transporting reptiles. And while it might seem like a tight fit, it really is the best way to ship them.
Reptiles are very, very different than animals, and I think the mistake most people make is they want to treat them like a cat or a dog. And so this would be a very inhumane situation to put a cat in or a dog. But something like a reptile can go for days and days without food. Matter of fact, months without food without suffering any ill effects. So something like this is just perfectly safe. Matter of fact, this is recommended for a transport. The animal can't move a lot where it would hurt itself or rub its nose raw, and the day or two it's in this box will make no difference.
1, 2, 3. That's it. All right.
Got it.
Now, moving Beaver and Dusty, who weigh about 200 pounds each, was a little more of a challenge.
She's a little bit more cantankerous than the others. What we had to do is coax her out of the pond because we really didn't want to be in that pond because we drained it. And, you know, we can't use any chemicals, so there's algae in there. So we've got to worry about slipping and sliding for the members. And as you can see, she did not want to come out of that pond. She got in a very defensive posture. Andy grabbed her tail, and we kind of drug her up there. And then what we do is throw a towel over their head, and then what you do is you jump on them and you subdue them. What you do is you just wait for them to get tired. And they're pushing and twisting and pulling. And those bony plates on the top are going right into you, and you're just hanging on for dear life. And then Daniel stuck a piece of PVC getting it in the mouth so he could tape it with the mouth partially open. And then, as you can see, she didn't want to let go. Once we got that out, the matter of getting through that cage, we don't have any room to walk around the side big enough, so because of the size of the alligator, you can see that everybody had to pull us up the hill, and Big Andy took a spill.
Oh, we're losing Andy.
Sure, anything to take a break. So, you know, that was just one of those, and then walk it down here and then get it into the cage and then hold the cage down because her first reaction is going to be to rear up like a horse, and, you know, her neck muscles and head muscles are extremely strong, so we don't want to splinter the wood, but we also don't want the lid coming up because her mouth was open about that far, and if somebody's hand was there, then you've got a problem. We had a real successful transfer day. Nobody got hurt. Nobody's bleeding. The only blood on us today was one alligator got a tooth loose, and that was the only blood on anybody.
Once the crates are sealed and labeled, the alligators are ready to begin their long journey. It starts out with being loaded into a trailer.
And then what we'll do is slide all the way forward so we don't ram it. Easy. Okay.
From Sky Harbor, they will be flown first to Atlanta and then on to Tampa. They should be in their new home in less than 12 hours. This group of gators got a lucky break. They are going to a good facility where they will be properly cared for. But there are a lot of other seized or abandoned reptiles that are not so fortunate. So if you are thinking about getting one of these cute little alligators for a pet, well, Russ Johnson asks you to please think again.
First of all, you're breaking the law, and then when they catch you, they're going to give you a citation. They're going to take your alligator and they're going to bring it out here, and then you're going to pay a fine. And these things are not docile. There's no such thing as a tame alligator. They don't make good pets. I mean, we love our guys, don't get me wrong, but they don't make good pets. So, you know, don't do it. Don't be tempted to bring them back here.
We're told the alligators are doing quite well in their new Florida home. Meanwhile, here in Arizona, we'll meet one of the more common reptiles native to this area.
As snakes go, the gopher snake is a large and heavy-bodied one. They can grow up to 7 feet in length, but 4 feet is more common. When you first spot a gopher snake, you'll notice a bunch of brown or reddish-colored blotches on its back, and its ground color is yellow, straw, tan, or cream color. Smaller blotches are on the animal's sides. A dark stripe runs in front of the eye to the angle of the jaw. And speaking of its jaw, the gopher snake is actually able to unhinge its jaw in order to swallow larger prey. When threatened, the gopher snake will rise up to a striking position, flatten its head into a triangular shape, hiss loudly, and shake its tail at the intruder. These defensive behaviors, along with its body markings, frequently cause the gopher snake to be mistaken for a rattlesnake. If you want to stick around to find out, look for a tapered tail with no rattle, the lack of a facial pit, and round pupils. All telltale signs this is no rattler. The gopher snake is active mainly during the day, except in extreme heat when it ventures out at night. A constrictor, it consumes mostly mammals, although birds and their eggs are also eaten. The gopher snake is one of the good guys, helping to maintain a balance in the animal kingdom.
You can learn more about the gopher snake and every reptile and amphibian in Arizona in this brand new field guide. What happens to young boys who like to play with snakes and frogs when they grow up to be men?
Yep.
In the case of Thomas Brennan and Andrew Holycross, they still like to play with snakes and frogs.
This is a long-nosed snake. It's a fairly common snake in the Phoenix area. It's non-venomous, harmless.
These two university biologists have taken their passion for these interesting creatures and written a new, comprehensive field guide, Amphibians and Reptiles in Arizona.
It was fun. It took us about a year to do it, but we enjoyed every minute of working on it. We thought it was important to show, how amazing a lot of these animals are. That a lot of people might not know that we have this wonderful diversity of reptiles and amphibians right here around the Phoenix area, and hopefully this will inspire people to get out and appreciate these animals more, and take a closer look at them.
We recently went on a hike in South Mountain Park with Tom and Andrew, plus other members of the media, to discuss their book and to see what kind of reptiles we could find.
We're looking for chuckwallas, which is a great big herbivorous lizard. So they eat a lot of like the blooms on these creosote bush, and occasionally an insect or two. And they tend to have males that get up on top of these boulders and defend a territory. They'll have a little harem of females associated with them.
And we did find them, thanks to being with a couple of guys who know what to look for.
They're hard to spot without binoculars. The best way to see those is to go ahead and get a set of binoculars, sit still for a while in the morning when it's just starting to warm up, and just scan the tops of the boulder piles.
Sometimes you can find the chuckwallas by looking in the crevices. They'll retreat in there when they see you, and you might not see them, but before you get to the area, they may have already gone into a rock crevice such as this. One of their defense mechanisms is they'll go into the rock crevices and then they'll inflate with air so that they become securely wedged in the rock, and predators or people can't easily extract them. There's a chuckwalla here on this rock pile there on the slope. When this animal gets older, its tail will become carrot orange. Real striking orange, bright orange tail. That's characteristic of the chuckwallas on South Mountain. South Mountain's the only range in Maricopa County, and in the state for that matter, that has this color phase of chuckwalla with the black body and the orange tail.
So while you're out hiking and looking for lizards, what advice do the experts have if you should encounter a snake?
Well, the best thing to do if you don't know what kind of snake it is, the best thing to do is to stop and slowly move in the opposite direction. If it's a rattlesnake or something like that, just try and give it a wide berth of space, and don't get too close, obviously. Don't get within striking distance.
Their book contains details on all 141 species of Arizona reptiles and amphibians, including all 13 rattlesnakes found in our state, and the information is paired with stunning photographs of each species as well as detailed maps of their ranges.
I've been interested in reptiles and amphibians for 40 years, and I've never seen a publication of this quality. Not only does it have a quality photograph of every reptile and amphibian in the state, which is unheard of, most of them really have drawings in them. The color's superb. They've gone through the process of having it edited by a lot of experts. They got maps of the distribution from each species from the Arizona Game and Fish Department's file. It is by far the most complete, accurate, and really a pleasure to look at book on reptiles and amphibians I've ever seen or most of my friends have ever heard of.
Even though Tom and Andrew have always been interested in reptiles and amphibians, they still had a few surprises while they were doing their research for this book.
There's an amazing number of frogs and toads in Maricopa County. We really have quite a variety, including one that's of tropical origin, that comes up just into the south end of Maricopa County. It's actually a tropical type frog. So we have that's pretty. I thought that was pretty amazing.
The book is a result of a joint effort between the Arizona Game and Fish Department, Arizona State University's School of Life Sciences, Mesa Community College, and partners in amphibian and reptile conservation. Recently, Bruce Talbert, Assistant Director for the Wildlife Management Division, presented the book and the authors to the Arizona Game and Fish Commission.
And this book, for the first time in Arizona, gives the opportunity for everybody that goes and enjoys the outdoors to look at it, to pick it up, pick up the book and say, that's what that is, and then learn a little bit about the life history and the distribution, and therefore hopefully appreciate that animal a little bit more and be a little bit more educated about the wildlife resources of the state.
The Amphibians and Reptiles of Arizona book is available at any Arizona Game and Fish Department office or at our website at azgfd.gov. You can also visit our website for more information on anything you've seen on tonight's show. For producers Carol Lind and Gary Schaefer, I'm your host Ian Satter. Thanks for watching.